Go. Start.
Welcome back to the Dershow. Today was a combination of a wonderful day and a terrible day. Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a Churchillian speech, one of the best speeches I've ever heard in Congress. I was there for his last speech in 2015, sitting in the front row with Mrs. Netanyahu and Elie Wiesel and his wife. I was invited to do the same this time, but I tore my hamstring. So I am bound not to travel for a few more weeks. So I'm stuck here. I was there in spirit. It was just awful to see how many people didn't show up, and particularly the people who boycotted. Now, Kamala Harris didn't come. She said she had to go to a sorority event, but Vance, vice presidential candidate Vance, didn't show up either. He was campaigning. He should have shown up. Of course, there's more of a compelling case for Harris because she is the constitutional president of the Senate and had an obligation, a constitutional duty to be there. It wasn't just a matter of choice. Vance is, of course, a member of the Senate. He also had a duty to be there, and I think they were both wrong. But I don't think Vance was doing it out of protest, whereas I think that Harris was doing it in order to avoid any conflict with her squad friends and other people. But the people most responsible are the bigots, the real bigots of the Democratic Party, led by Liz Warren. Liz Warren is a genuine bigot. She applies a double standard to Israel. She doesn't like Israel. She stayed away in 2015. So for her, this is not about Gaza. This is not about anything humanitarian. It's about her hatred for Israel and her hatred for the prime minister of Israel. You know, Americans don't get to choose the prime ministers of another country, whether it be Chuck Schumer, who said that Netanyahu should resign, or Liz Warren, who claims with crocodile tears that, oh, but she's not opposed to Israel. She's not an anti-Semite. She doesn't hate Jews. Some of her best friends are Jews. She just hates Netanyahu. Well, he's the prime minister of Israel that the people of Israel elected. And there wasn't even any conflict about him in 2015 when she stayed away from that speech. I spoke to her personally about it. I called her. I was a supporter of hers. She came to me for help when she ran for the Senate. I told her then, this is 9 years ago, if she failed to show up, if she boycotted Netanyahu, I will never support her and I will always oppose her. And I always have opposed her. If I were 25 years younger, I'd have gone back to Massachusetts and run against her. If I were 50 years younger, I'd have a gun and be fighting in Gaza for Israel as a volunteer. But I'm not. I'm 85, going to be 86 in a month. And now I'm on a cane because of my hamstring. So here I am just talking. But let's go through this dishonor roll, particularly of senators who disgracefully, these are senators, many of them, who would have jumped at the opportunity to see Fidel Castro. They would today jump at the opportunity to see the head of the Palestinian Authority, who is not legitimately elected and who has over his life supported Holocaust denial, Hitler, and terrorism. They would all go there in a heartbeat. They would go to see the dictators of China, of Belarus, of Russia, of Iran, but they won't go to see the democratically elected prime minister of one of America's strongest allies, who made an extraordinarily pro-American speech. He talked as much about the security of America in relation to Iran, in relation to terrorism, almost as much as he talked about Israel. Obviously, he cares more about his own country, as he should. But these are among the people on the dishonor roll. Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat, disgraceful, disgusting. Of course, Bernie Sanders. What would you expect? Bernie Sanders is an overt anti-Semite. Yeah, he's Jewish. He was born in Brooklyn, and he decided to save the world and to increase diversity by moving to Vermont, which has no blacks virtually to speak of. He's a bigot and he is a hypocrite. And it doesn't surprise me. He went to England to campaign for Corbyn, who's an admitted anti-Semite. I mean, the guy, it reeks. I mean, the guy could have written for Die Stürme, a Nazi publication. And Bernie Sanders says, I don't care if he's an anti-Semite. I don't care if he's a bigot. I don't care if he's a racist. As long as he's a leftist, hey, he can count on my support. Cori Bush, the same thing, running, hopefully losing in St. Louis for Congress, who supports all forms of bigotry and anti-Semitism. And of course, don't be surprised, Liz Warren, on the same day that she came out saying she wouldn't go to hear Netanyahu, she said she supports and endorses Cori Bush. Okay, then we have who else? We have Senator Brian Schatz, a Jewish senator from Hawaii. He stayed away. Senator Charles Van Hallen, he stayed away. Senator Jeff Merkley, he stayed away. Who else? Senator Greg Kasar, and then representatives. So we have a bunch of representatives. Representative Jim Clyburn, the man who made Biden president, essentially, an African American from South Carolina. He stayed away. He's very prominent, both very prominent black within the Black Caucus and a very prominent Democrat. A number of people from the Black Caucus stayed away as well. Of course, another Jewish representative, Representative Jan Schakowsky, who always votes against Israel and always votes against anything that supports the Jewish community. And yet, the Jews of Illinois vote for her. I don't know why, but they do, and it's pretty disgraceful. Well, I could just go through the list. Of course, AOC Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who probably has no idea where the Jordan River is, along with Cori Bush, they voted, of course. They walked out on Netanyahu. Representative Jamal Bowman, soon to be former Representative Jamal Bowman, lost overwhelmingly, as I hope Cori Bush will. He stayed away. Representative Jim McGovern, who I thought had some decency, but I guess I was wrong about him. Representative Barbara Lee, another African American member of Congress. Representative Ayanna Presley, representing my old district of Cambridge, another African American bigot who will apply a double standard to the nation state of the Jewish people than she would anybody else. Representative Ilhan Omar, of course, no surprise there. Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Representative Becker Baylant, Thomas Mason, over and over and over again. So you have approximately 38 people staying, boycotting. Others maybe have stayed away for health reasons and other reasons, but 38. One Republican, but all the rest Democrats. And the Democrats are going around seeking the support of Zionists like me, Jews like me, Christian Zionists. Don't listen to them. They listen not to what they do, but not to what they say, but watch what they do. People have compared Netanyahu to Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill spoke 3 times to Congress, Netanyahu now 4 times, and Churchill did the same thing Netanyahu did. He basically came to America asking for their help in the run-up or during the Second World War. I have to tell you, a lot of these useful idiots in the Senate and Congress, if they were consistent, would have had to walk out on Churchill. Churchill, after all, was somebody who believed in colonialism. He was, I think, the minister for colonialism or something, but he was part of colonial Great Britain. I mean, there have been colonialists. Great Britain is colonial. The most colonial country in the world, of course, is New Zealand. It was established roughly the same time that Zionism was established. And, of course, the Britishers of New Zealand who went there had no connection to the land. They just captured the land, killed Maoris, got rid of them, made deals with them, fake treaties, and took over. And now New Zealand is a completely colonialist state, but New Zealand will always vote against Israel, saying they're colonialists. Nothing could be further from the truth. Israel is the least colonial state on the globe. The Jews who founded Israel, it was a Jewish state 4,000 years ago. It was the state of the Bible. It had Judea and Samaria, King David. And then the Jews were expelled, were kicked out. And the Romans invented the term Palestine. There was no such term. There were no such people. Palestina. They renamed Judea Palestina in order to try to eliminate its Jewish character. And then Israel fought against colonialism. It blew up the King David Hotel, Begin did, because it was the head of the colonialist occupation of what became Israel, Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. In order to become an independent state, Israel had to fight British colonialism. And so how you can call, it shows such incredible ignorance of history, geography, ethics, politics, to call Israel colonialist and then to call it apartheid. Did you see Bibi Netanyahu introduced these soldiers? One of them was black from Ethiopia. Another was a Bedouin, a Muslim. There were others. Israel has much more diverse population than many American states, diverse in the sense of so many different kinds of people and so many different backgrounds. It's a country that ingathered people from all over the world to help establish a nation state for the Jewish people after the Holocaust. And so Cori Bush probably would have walked out on Churchill. She probably wouldn't have understood a word he said anyway, but she would have walked out on him. Would Liz Warren have walked out? No, because she's a bigot. Liz Warren wouldn't have walked out on him because she's perfectly prepared to apply a double standard. Cori Bush probably would be willing to apply a stupid, simplistic single standard. Oh, colonialist. Oh, well, we're not gonna listen. America had colonialism too. We took over Mexico, parts of Mexico, Louisiana. You name it. Every country had a little bit of that, obviously. But no countries are more colonial than New Zealand and Australia. America, we colonized the country and took it away from Native Americans. That was a long, long, long time ago. But when we look in the mirror, we don't call other countries like Israel colonialist and apartheid. I mean, there's no country in the Middle East that has more diversity and more rights for its diverse citizens than Israel. The only safe place for a Christian in the Middle East is Israel. The only safe place for a gay person in Israel, in the Middle East, is Israel. And yet, this name calling, these stupid, useful idiots, and I'm glad Netanyahu used the term useful idiots to describe these unbelievably undereducated college students who are yelling, from the river to the sea. What river? What sea? We have no idea. Palestine will be free. Free of what? Free of Jews. Judenrein. That's what the Nazis said. That's what they practice. Yes, they are useful idiots. I think some of them are genuinely evil. Idiot sounds like an insanity defense. Some of these kids are genuinely evil, just the way 19, 20, and 21-year-old kids who marched against Jews in Munich in 1933, in Berlin and Hamburg, they were useful idiots in the Nazi party, but they were evil. And they ended up burning Jews and killing people and killing Catholics and killing Protestants and killing religious people and killing Romani people. Yeah, you can be evil when you're 21 years old. And idiocy is no defense against doing evil things. So I'm really glad that Netanyahu called out these people. I wish he had he did use the term evil, but he didn't direct it at the protesters. I was also glad that Netanyahu didn't shirk. He said Israel's not going to back down. Israel's going to do what it has to do to defend its people. We're no longer the kid in the ghetto with his hands up, surrendering to the Germans. When you attack Israel, you'll be attacked. And when you attack Israel and hide among civilians, your civilians will be killed. Not because of Israel, but because of you, Hamas, because you have chosen. And Bibi quoted from somebody I've quoted from a long time ago, may have gotten it from my book because a lot of what he said came from quotes in my book. I know he has my book because I gave it to him. He quoted a leader of Hamas saying, we glorify the death of women and children. They are our martyrs. We thrive. We love the fact that they die. We love death, he said, the way you love life. And Bibi made that point. He said, this is not a clash of civilizations. This is a clash between civilization and barbarism, between decency and indecency, between people who have as part of their policy to rape women and to behead children and to burn children and to kill people in front of their parents. And I'm glad he said, you protesters, you who are on the side of Hamas are on the side of rape. People have to know that. They have to hear it. Now, of course, the 38 people who didn't come to hear Netanyahu don't know this because they have decided to blind themselves and to keep themselves ignorant. And that's, what they have chosen. They've chosen ignorance. When Liz Warren, when I spoke to her 9 years ago, when she said she wasn't going to come to listen to Netanyahu before Gaza, obviously, I said, come, listen, open your mind. Maybe you'll learn something. You don't know a lot about the Middle East. At that point, she knew absolutely nothing about the Middle East, total ignoramus. Maybe you learn something, but if you still disagree at the end, hold a press conference and condemn him and attack him and answer him. No, I'm not going to go at all. And how dare you call me and ask me to do that? And I cut her off. I said, no, don't ever ask me for a donation or support. I will support your opponents, Republicans, and I have supported Republicans who have run against her. I would love to see her defeated, but she's in Massachusetts, and so she won't be defeated. Most of the people who are protesters and who boycotted Israel come from safe districts, so they are not worried about what impact this could have on their electoral fortunes. So it was a disgraceful day for the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party will pay a price for this. I hope they'll pay a price for it. They will certainly make it harder for people who are independent and people who care about Israel, whether they be Christians or Jewish or any other background. If you support Israel, it's very hard to support a party. 38, 37 of its members boycotted the leader, the elected, democratically elected leader. Look, there are going to be new elections after the war is over, and maybe Netanyahu won't be the next prime minister. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter to Liz Warren. She's never going to come to hear an Israeli leader. She hates Israel, and she simply supports the knee-jerk left-wing opposition to Israel, as do virtually everybody from the hard left. To their credit, a few people from the hard left went to hear the speech, but probably they went in order to condemn. But that's okay. That's okay. If you come and listen, at least, and there are two ways of listening. You can listen like this, I'm not gonna, or you can listen and lean in and try to maybe understand what they're saying. Of course, Pelosi, who also claims to be pro-Israel but is not. Pelosi said this was the worst speech given by a political leader in the history of the country. Was she listening to the same speech I was listening to? No. She was listening with her ears closed. She probably did write that before he uttered a word. She was going to say that no matter what he said. Remember, Nancy Pelosi is also the leader of the Democrats who embraced the squad, who embraced anti-Semites on the squad. So I'm no fan of Nancy Pelosi. She has a lot of support, not from me. I'm not a fan of her. I'm not a fan of Schumer. I'm not a fan of Jeffries. I'm not a fan of the leadership of the Democratic Party. There are a lot of good Democrats. Josh Gottheimer is a great Democrat from New Jersey. I hope maybe he will take over as the senator from Bob Menendez. Don't know if he will or not, but he would be a great senator. There are some other really good Democrats. Fetterman is a terrific guy. Shapiro, the governor, great guy. There are some other really wonderful people in the Democratic Party. So I'm not going to paint with a broad brush. And there are some pretty awful people in the Republican Party. But there's no question that the Republican Party in general, as evidenced by the standing ovations that Bibi got, are much more supportive of Israel. I was on a television show at Newsmax when he was first introduced, and on the show, I stood up and gave him a standing ovation. I wish I could have been there. Not easy for me to stand up these days, but I stood up and gave him a standing ovation from in front of my television camera. I probably will speak to him tonight or tomorrow and congratulate him. Maybe I'll speak to him after he has his meetings with Vice President Harris and former President Trump and President Biden. I will talk to him and get his personal assessments. I'm not going to be able to share them with you unless he allows me to, but I am very interested in hearing his candid evaluations of these meetings, which I'm sure he will share with me and with others who are close to him. Look, I don't agree with everything that Netanyahu has done. I publicly opposed some of his judicial reform, and he wasn't happy with me about that, but that's my position. I'm always going to be honest and frank with him and with other people who I support. But in general, I support his foreign policy. I support his war policy. I support his desire to destroy Hamas. He got a standing ovation when he talked about that. He talked about not only destroying Hamas militarily, but also preventing it from having political control over Gaza. And he made a brilliant proposal for a regional alliance between the Abraham Accord countries. And I advised and consulted a little bit on the Trump policies toward Israel. And I'm proud of having played that role, and I'll continue to play it if I'm asked, no matter which party is in power. And Netanyahu made a wonderful proposal. He talked about extending the Abraham Accords to include Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries that are not currently members, to create a united front against Iran. Iran is the common enemy. The Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran itself, which is only weeks away from having a nuclear arsenal, which would endanger not only Israel. Remember, Israel has, well, they don't publicly state it, nuclear weapons that they could use to respond if necessary, God forbid, if they were attacked by a nuclear weapon. But the other countries don't. The Saudis don't, and the Emirates don't, and Bahrain doesn't. Qatar, who knows what they have and who knows which side they're on. If they can help bring the hostages back, I'll praise them. I know the Emir of Qatar, and I know his brother. We spent some time together, both in Qatar and in New Jersey at the hotel of Donald Trump, where I had dinner with them and President Trump when he was president. And if Qatar could bring about a resolution of this and bring home the hostages, hey, I'm all in favor of that. But they have to be aggressive. And, it's so interesting because so many of the Democrats are blaming the failure to have a ceasefire on Israel. But let's remember what President Biden and what Secretary Blinken have said. The only thing that stands between a ceasefire and not having a ceasefire, the only thing is Hamas. Israel has already agreed. Qatar has agreed. Egypt has agreed. The United States has agreed. I'm sure the Saudis, although they're not directly involved, have also agreed. It's only Hamas that has not agreed. So these protesters, these ignorant, useful, idiot, evil people who are demanding a ceasefire, yeah, okay, demand it from Hamas. Don't demand it from Israel. Don't you know how to take yes for an answer? Israel has already said yes. Oh, people are complaining that it delayed its people going to Qatar for a day. Of course they did. They were delaying it because President Biden's meeting with Netanyahu has been delayed for a day. He was supposed to originally meet on Tuesday. Now that he's meeting tomorrow, of course they want to know what Biden's position is before they state their position. And the idea that, CNN, which is so one-sidedly anti-Israel, even the Israelis that they interview are one-sidedly anti-Israel. Dan Raviv and some of the others, well, they're all anti-Netanyahu. They care more about getting rid of Netanyahu than they do about bringing the hostages back. But of course they have to wait. They condemned Israel for delaying it one day. Of course they would condemn Israel if they sent the delegation now before there was an opportunity to talk to Biden. Of course you have to know what your allies are providing. You have to have your conversation first with Biden, then you send your people to Qatar to have further negotiations. So that was exactly the right thing to do. But for CNN, there is no right thing. If you're an Israeli, if you're Israel, if you're a pro-Netanyahu, or if you're, God forbid, a Republican, there can't be anything right on CNN. CNN is Pravda. It's Pravda. The difference between CNN and MSNBC is MSNBC has a sign that says Pravda. It says we are biased, we are bigoted, we are one-sided. Don't come to us if you want to hear the truth or all sides of an issue. Come to us if you want to hear propaganda. That's MSNBC. Everybody knows that. CNN tries to pretend that it's objective. They have Wolf Blitzer, who's wonderful. He's a great guy. And he is objective, but he has to toe the line with CNN. And CNN is MSNBC in disguise. They just don't admit it. And so they basically panned the speech. Obviously, other networks who were more objective saw the speech for what it is. But my feeling is let everybody watch it. Make your own decision. You don't need CNN or even Fox News to tell you whether it was a good speech. It was a good speech. Watch it for yourself and you'll see. Okay, so let's see what the letters are today. This is a funny one. World's top defense lawyers who's never been hamstrung in 60 years of courtroom battles finally pulls a hamstring catching a falling celebrity. It's true. It's all true. My hamstring hurts. But, it's what you get for being a guy who grew up in a kosher home and has a hamstring. I shouldn't have a hamstring. I should have a pastrami string or a corned beef string. All right. Kamala had a sorority function to attend. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Well, Vance had something to attend to. So I'm not going to condemn her just for that, although, as I said, as the constitutional presiding officer of the Senate, she should have been there. And I don't think she should have used her campaign as an excuse. She could have delayed campaigning for a few hours. You're not going to see the Israeli prime minister, and you know how much it would mean for you to be there even in a wheelchair. I thought about it. I really, really thought about it, but my wife prevailed on me. It's very, very difficult with my little injury to get on an airplane to, get to the, they give me wheelchair access and all that. But it's difficult, and I really regretted it. While I was watching it and watching the people in the audience and knowing where I would have been seated, I felt terrible about it. But look, I'll be 86 in a month. I gotta put my health first, and so I did. Maybe it was selfish. CNN aired a session gathering who should be Kamala's kamikaze VP. Buttigieg was mentioned, but eliminated because he is gay. Shapiro was proposed, but he was dismissed because he is Jewish. The party of diversity and inclusion? Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous to not nominate somebody because of their religious or sexual orientation. This is a funny one. According to the Brutus Commission, this is about the Warren Commission. According to the Brutus Commission, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a lone dagger man. Well, if you've read Shakespeare, you know that it was more than Brutus. In fact, you know it from the very statement in Latin, "A to Brutus." You also, Brutus, you are joining the other people. So he was not a lone dagger man. Alan, I was a law student in 1970. You always respected your opinions on legal issues. I'm still a fan. Doesn't seem like you've changed your mind regarding integrity. I don't think you change minds regarding integrity. Either you have it or you don't have it. Liz Warren doesn't have it. I have it. I've always had it. And I'm always going to have it. You might disagree with me, and you might accuse me of not having integrity, but I don't accuse myself of that. I've always tried very hard to live by principle and live by integrity. And believe me, it's gotten me into a lot of trouble with people not only on Martha's Vineyard, but really all over the world. If Kamala were a congresswoman, do you think she'd be a member of the squad? It's possible. I don't know. I don't know whether she would join the squad, but I think she would vote for the squad, which is why I worry about her. I think she is to the left of Biden. I think she is less supportive of Israel than Biden, and all of those things will factor into my final decision, along with other issues, because I vote as an American. I care deeply about Israel, but I'm going to vote based on what I think is best for America, best for world peace, best for the world, and best for Israel, all together. Der Stürmer was first published in April 1923. Anti-Semitism started small and grew gradually. It should be stopped ASAP. We shouldn't wait until Kristallnacht and worse. I agree with you. That's why I have been fighting on college campuses. I have been trying to speak as often as I can against anti-Semitism. All right. Alan Dershowitz, one of the few Democrats in the courage to call out leftist lunacy. I have respect for him. I appreciate that. Here's my final one. Are you ready to leave the left now? Now, people don't understand me. I have never been a leftist. I have always been a liberal. I have never been a member of the left or a supporter of the left. In fact, I have always been an opponent of the hard left. Now, as a liberal, I supported some principles that the left supported, but I never have considered myself a leftist. I consider myself a liberal. I am a libertarian who supports many issues that the left supports, but I also support many issues that the center-right supports. I think of myself as a center liberal libertarian, but so I don't have to leave the left. The left, if I was ever associated with it, the left has certainly left me, but I have never considered myself to be a leftist, always considered myself to be a liberal. Well, a lot of things are going to happen between now and next week, so stay tuned. See you again next Monday.